Guys are calling us, hey man, I'm ready to hire a sales manager. I'm like, are you? Like, how do you know that you are? Well, I'm at $4 million in revenue. I'm like, well, revenue is a vanity stat. Let's look at profit. Yeah. What is value? What is the price really based on? Perceived value is what the customer feels that they're getting. Is private equity actually better at what they're doing, or are they better understanding the psychology of what? I feel that there's no such thing as value. You could be the best roofer in Minnesota, Jim, but nobody knows about you because the perceived value is not there. You could install the absolute best roof, right? Because sales becomes emotional. If it's logical, they might choose Jim, but Jim didn't spend enough money to even get in front of that person.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Ahlin, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast, brought to you by Jim Ahlin.
Man, what are you doing in my studio, John?
You know, man, like we're taking over the world over here and having so much fun doing it.
Man, so you flew into Minnesota and said, man, I'd love let's do a podcast live. Well, guess what, John? I moved. I moved up to my lake house for the summer. And so I'm in my lake house, the studio at my lake house that I just built, and you got to come in and take my place today in the
Yeah. It looks like you're in the LC, Lower Canada today.
I am in Lower Canada. I am in Lower Ontario. So if anyone wants to pop by the studio up here, if you're going to the Boundary Waters canoe area or something like that, shoot me a text. Text the phone numbers in the description. Have you on live in the up north studio, the Northwoods studio.
The Northwoods. So I love it, man.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Glad to have you back. You are a man on a mission. You're a man on the road. You're a road warrior. You're out on the road with the TAMCO, with the TAMCO team, providing great education around the country. You got the Day 41 Thrive events and all of the great things you're doing with that. What's an update on you, John? What's an update on what you guys are doing? And then we'll get
first,
into...
First we had our fifth grandson. So I've been hanging out in Kentucky the past 2 or 3 months. So that's been fun.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we got our fifth grandson. So we had 4 girls and a boy. Now we got all grandsons. So I've officially got enough to have a basketball team. When it comes to the agency side, man, like we're just reinventing ourselves over here, having fun, bringing some really big players in. You know, we want to do some big things and make some big impact, and that's really what it's all about. So just building a bridge to implementation. That's what I would say is like spend a year trying to learn the coaching game, right? I mean, we've done a lot of coaching over the years and worked with guys one-on-one, but try to understand like how can we make the most impact and really get people to implement. And that's really kind of where we're at today, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of you see it on a regular basis, traveling around, going event to event. You know, people leave an event inspired, but weeks later, a month later, their business looks exactly the same, right? And why do you think that happens?
It's not due to not wanting to. It's just a lot of times they don't know how to, right? And so that's what we found is like they don't have the right tools. They don't really have, and everybody wants to sell them something, right? And that's been the whole game. And like I'm at the point I don't really need to sell you anything, right? Like we can give it all away. I do find that there's more value when people show up and have skin in the game. So what we found was when we go to these events and we inspire people, get them going, get them. They just don't have the time and the wherewithal to know where do I start. So we want to be that compass, right? And say, hey, listen, this is where you start. This is how we get there. And these are the things that are your blind spots. And so we built a bunch of tools to help with that.
That's awesome. I know you've been doing the coaching. Now you built some tools to kind of go along with the coaching. What problem are you really trying to solve? Or really, I guess, are you trying to, I'm assuming you're solving the problem of the everyday roofing contractor, right? Like the independent roofing contractor, not the PE guys. Like what problems are you seeing have you seen most, and what are some of the things that you guys are doing?
Yeah, I would say the biggest problem is everybody wants to stay average. Like, hey, it's worked this way for so long. And PE wants you to stay average. Like, they don't need you to go backwards. Just do what you're doing now, and they'll go buy the whole market up. And so we had that webinar there a couple weeks ago to kind of talk about the state of the roofing industry. And one of the main things was how it's shifting. And if we don't shift with it and understand like where, and you're from the digital marketing background, the digital marketing side is getting even harder. Not that you can't win there, but now it's a capital race. It's literally comes down to money. And if you don't have the capital to win, then we need to shift our businesses. And that's the biggest shift that we're really looking at. And then having the right tools, accountability tools. Like over the last year, we've built out this tool, which we've used it for a year now, called the Growth Gauge, where it really helps it helped us coaching. Like it was more of a blind spot detection for us, but the roofer fills out the growth gauge. We go through it and we find some of the blind spots, and then we jump on a free, assessment call and then kind of help them say, hey, here's your roadmap. And so that's kind of what we're talking about with it. And then the next stages is, well, most guys don't know their numbers. And that was one of the biggest things that was kind of like disheartening is like, guys are calling us, hey man, I'm ready to hire a sales manager. I'm like, are you? Like, how do you know that you are? Like, well, I'm at $4 million in revenue. I'm like, well, revenue is a vanity stat. Let's look at profit.
Yeah.
And so our whole thing that we've built and what we've learned is that guys don't know their numbers. So we want to give them the right way to get to know their numbers. And because you can't make any good decisions unless you've got the right data, and data is everything.
Definitely. And that's a big challenge when you're small, starting out. You got you have your CRM. You might be using some canvassing software. You might be using some you got your QuickBooks. You got all this data scattered everywhere. It's kind of hard to get that all into and get a good view, right? Get a really good view of what's going on.
Yeah.
So if the problem is, or if one of the things is they don't know their numbers, so why does it cost an owner so much to just run their business on gut instinct?
It's a great question. So it's the stuff that, we don't know what we don't know, right? Why it costs them so much to run it on gut. Because what happens is, which we talked about right before the podcast, was, you get this feeling that, hey, this April I did X amount of millions, but because we had a storm, and we ride April all the way to August and September. And then wind up making decisions based on my current cash flow, not based on what the prediction of next year is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So now we start buying trucks, getting all this stuff, like whatever it is that they do, right? A lot of guys are making bad decisions because they don't understand where the numbers are leading them. So they chase the revenue stat. That's why I said it's a vanity stat, instead of looking at the profitability of the company. So a lot of times, like the guys that we're coaching, like would you rather do 10 million at 10% or 5 million at 20%? I'd much rather do 5 million at 20%. Like, it's less headache, less customers. Sure, it's less revenue, but you're making the same amount of profit. So guys, they get out of that rail of understanding what it is, and we get stuck on this chasing the alpha dog thing. Hey, like I did $30 million. We've done that. The revenue doesn't matter, right? My grandpa used to say this, and it has stuck with me. And he was an insurance salesman and owned an insurance actual company. And it was interesting. He used to always say, "Listen, it doesn't matter how much money or revenue you make; it's how much that you hang on to." Because that's how you can help other people, even more people. That's how I can invest into my culture and to the people and make sure that I give people raises. Because some of the biggest blind spots that we see is like, hey, I want to hire, we kind of started to talk about that. I want to hire somebody, but what do I pay him? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't want to give you advice to go hire somebody right now without knowing what are the numbers. And we keep circling back to that inside of our coaching agency is know the numbers. Because I don't want to give you any bad advice saying, well, yes, go hire the sales manager at X amount of salary and this is override. And then it tanks you. So our whole focus has been, let's dig in, let's spend the first 2-3 months is what we've done in most of our one-to-one coaching, extract out all their numbers, all their reports, put it into a dashboard to help them see where they came from and where they're going. Because once you have a clear path, it's way easier. And that's what I learned, inside the giant, right? Inside of private
That's right.
equity, that
Yep.
with that 15 months, is you got to have that data. But it's not just data for us. Like that's what I learned. I love on the outside of that animal is like, I love data, but I want to make good decisions for my people as well. So, and I can't hire more people unless I know how much money is coming in and going out.
So is that part of the growth gauge that you mentioned? Where you
Yeah,
got, is that kind of the
gauge
starting point when you're when you're talking about talking to this with people? Is you're kind of starting with the foundation of the growth gauge?
Yeah, and the growth gauge is like, it's 55 questions that ask you some, some stuff like, where's your revenue at? How many sales reps? It asks some kind of loaded questions too of like, when you're pitching at the table, do you say 1, 2, 3, or 4? And then it helps us understand the whole model of what you're doing and where that we can jump in and help you with most of the pain points to start. Right. So it's all about like, what I learned like way back in the day in the Marine Corps was it's the 3 life-saving steps. Stop the bleeding, restore the breathing, then treat for shock. So most guys come to us and they're trying and they're bleeding out somewhere. And Jim, it's always, hey, John, if I just had more leads, I would fix all my problems. It's like, well, no, like let's look at our 5x5 strategy. And that's what we really train on is we call it our KIN 5. I love acronyms, right? So KYN, know your numbers 5 times 5. So it's hyper focus on 5 things at 5%. It's not a huge lift, right? So it's like lead. So one of the things that we coach on is lead to set, right? So you got, 1,000 leads, you're setting them at a 50%. Let's just look at 55%, right? What do we got to do to speed that up to 55% conversion? The next step is, the appointment to close, right? So if we can go from 25 to 30%, what's that lift look like just with those two things inside of your company? Right. And then we go to the next stage, which is how do I reduce my cost of goods by 5%? How do I raise my average ticket by 5%? And then how do I actually put 5% more on to the bottom line? So it's like, how do you mix all that together, put it into the cake bowl and put all the batter together, and then set your OpEx and marketing budget based on that? And then that's when we do our 3-tier budget stuff that we're talking about. So
okay. So this is what I love, man, and why we've connected so well over the years is like we have a lot of the same thoughts, and it's incremental changes make a huge amount of difference. And then the other thing, which is that old quote, is like what you focus on expands, right? And so if you say, okay, we're going to look at our set rate and we're going to try to increase, our goal is to increase it 5%. It's a measurable thing. It's a measurable thing. It's not just hey, we want more appointments. What does that mean? Right? Like, which is challenging for a lot of people. They do, it's I need more leads. Well, no, I used to talk about this from the marketing side is, it's that old, drill and hole analogy. All of these things, people don't buy a drill because they want a drill. They buy a drill because they want a hole. And so what is the hole that you're trying to accomplish, right? What are you trying to accomplish here? You need more leads for what? Where are you trying to get to? Where are you, are you close? Are you far? What's the gap that you're trying to fill? What are you really trying to achieve when you say, I need more leads in my business? So I want to go through these 5 things in a little bit more detail with you. So the first one, like you said, was set rate, right?
Yes.
The first one was set rate. Yeah. So the first one being set rate, lead to set. I've been on a kick with this one, man, for the last 6 months or something. And probably people might be sick of me talking about it even on the podcast, is that like, this is the lever that people they ignore this lever.
Right.
Completely. They just completely ignore the lever. I need more leads and I need my reps to close at a higher rate. They miss this whole gap in the middle. They miss this whole thing here. And that's where the magic happens, right? So
that's where the magic's at.
That's where the magic happens, man. And so if like that's the one that's overlooked the most, in my opinion, as you're going around and coaching contractors and doing events and stuff like that. Are you finding that that's the one that people ignore the most, or
That one is one of the
one
ones.
of them, and which ones do contractors ignore the most? Let's start there.
It's going to be the set rate. They don't understand it. Like they consider leads and appointments to be the same. They conflate them and put them together a lot of times. And you and I have been working together for a long time, right? Because you took over our marketing and we spoke the same language, right? And so, even then it was like, Jim, it's not that I need more leads. Like, of course, we all want more leads. Like, but we started to dial in certain channels that I knew I was getting better set rates out of. So if I can't track that, I can't give good information back to my agency. And so that was the other thing. It's like, well, they start just rolling over agencies and rolling over this. And like, it's even like a sales process. Like they don't have a good sales process or that they don't have one. So a bad process and a bad agency is still better than no agency and no process. But you got to give them the data back to know what it is that you need to be doing. So if I don't know where the channels are coming from, and I'm not tracking that with that data, like, hey, this certain campaign 1, my set rate is at 32%, but campaign 2 is at 65. What do I do to turn up campaign 2? And so like, that's where I think that we get, hyper focused in the wrong directions. Brian Gottlieb said it the best. I just saw him speak on this a while back. We called it our 41 standards, right? So of course that's part of the name, but we have our own standards that we've always had, right? So little things like, hey, we win speed to lead. We do this. Like, it's about like, we get stuck in this SOP game in the bottom, which is actually a layer over top of SOPs. And Brian just said it so elegantly. I'm like, man, like this is the best way to say it. Like we've always called our standards and SOPs, but then he's like, no, he's like, there's adaptive and then there's technical. So you got to understand, like at the very top, right? At the very top, it's like we win speed to lead. The SOP might change. The marketing channel might change every year or every 6 months or whatever it is. But if we have the same theology within us, I win speed to lead. I close at the table. I collect at the end of the job. Like we always had those as our theology, right? That were overlying anything that's underneath of it. And so guys get stuck down in the weeds on the SOP side. Well, but SOPs change. Like I love SOPs. Like I'm all about details and SOPs. But when we start thinking of the hierarchy, that's the first transition in their mind that they have to do is like, how do I win speed to lead? Right? How do I win that? I don't care what it is right now. That could change in 6 months. Right? Google makes one update and now LSA is not as relevant as what it was. Right? Now we got to switch over to door-to-door marketing again. So whatever the marketing channel is, but I got to be able to track it and know my appointment to set rate out of every marketing channel. And that's where I think guys just, their minds get blown. And that's where the inspiration was happening in coaching, but there was no implementation because it was too hard. That's why we built the software that we were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And that's that you have to be able to get to the numbers first. And I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people. And it's not easy sometimes, right? Like it's not easy if you're not doing call tracking on all of your calls, and if you're not reviewing whoever's answering your phone, if you're not reviewing the calls and making sure that their scripting is proper. Like how are they answering the phone? What are they saying on the phone? I bet most of you listening have never done that, right? And so call, secret shopper your company. And, we've done this at RSRA, which is now RSA events, where I had a room full of 100 contractors and had them all secret shopper their company. Some of them found out that the form on the website was broken.
Yeah.
For who knows how long. Some of them found out that no one answered. So, some of them found out that the phone wasn't answered the way they thought it was being answered, and with the enthusiasm or empathy in the conversation that you would want to have with a homeowner. And so that's a big one. What's another one that you think like this is one that everyone, like, I see this one next, like this is the next biggest miss?
Yeah, it's the next biggest miss is going to really be COGS, right? Not understanding what is cost of goods sold. So that's the first thing, is not even understanding it. But then the second step into that is how to reduce the COGS by 5%. And so reducing the COGS by 5% is not going to beating up the supplier like we think, or beating up the crew like we think. How to become more efficient? So it's little things that we did, like efficiency gains, right? Which, like, guys like, well, it costs me money to put a guy on every job. Well, actually, it's costing you money to not have a guy on every job, right? And so it was a miracle, man. Like when we first started, and I say that as tongue in cheek, but it was a miracle. Like when we shipped out 22 squares, what do you think the crew installed? 22 squares, right? When we shipped out 24, everybody guessed 24. Well, what we found was that when I put a guy on every job, now it was 19.6. Because then we would pay that guy for the percentage of the returns. Now, he owned that. He owned the materials. So guess what, infallibly happened was, like, we went from paying the crew 22 squares down to 19.6. I started to save 2.3 squares on every single job that we put out there by having one guy on site. So we think it as a cost, and people look at it, well, this is going to cost me more money. Well, no, it's actually going to save you money and make you more money on the bottom line. So we were saving roughly like $425 to $500 a job, and paying a guy to be there at $200 a day. Plus, he made a percentage, on other things too, right? But he made the percentage of the change orders, percentage of the returns. And so I wound up, switching that with time myself. For, like, we wound up making $250 a job by having this guy on there. Right. So we changed the bottom line with just one little thing that we look at through the wrong lens of, it's going to cost me money. Well, no, actually, it saved us money by putting the person in place. Because what does the crew do? The first thing that they do is they throw 3 squares in the dumpster and throw the tear off on top of it, because we're not managing the jobs. And then we complain that our job costs are way too high. Right. So, like, incentivize the right behavior. Right. So I've always said that compensation drives behavior. So it can drive bad behavior as well. But, like, when it comes to the, whatever you want to call them, the on-site foremen, right? Like, if they know that every bundle that they pull back is $10 in their pocket, they'll go pull 5 back immediately, put it in the back of their truck, right? And then they'll take out the broken rolls of felt and put them out there and take back that whole roll of felt. That's $10 in their pocket. Like, when you get it down to the minimum, like, hey, like, they're making $50 to $100 on every job just in returns. So now that half a box of nails is going to the next job, the half a roll of ice and water is going to the next job, the half a tube of caulk is going to the next job. It's those little things that you become more efficient. And so you pay for that, though, right? But you actually wind up making more money on it, because I'm getting $500 back in yield, and I'm paying $250 to have it done. So it's those types of things help focus on cost of goods.
So then that makes me think of developing roles in a company. So when we're looking at hires, developing a job description, developing a role in our company, are we looking at it from this perspective then? Instead of just, hey, they're going to take the calls away from me as the owner. They're going to take that away. How can someone look at it and define a role with a performance metric that has an impact on their COGS, on their lead set rate, like appointment set rate, things like that? How can someone do that instead?
So I'm going to lead with an answer that you probably weren't thinking of. We have to think of the customer outcome first.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we lead with the customer mentality where it's at first, right? So when we talk about, like, lead to set, right? If I think about the customer first, and I'm going to get to them first, they're already going to feel more trust because we answered the phone, we got to them faster. So the same thing for having an on-site supervisor, right? I'm thinking about the customer first. Of course, you just want to help my colleagues, right? That's just the benefit of it, right? But the actual feature of it is this is now a forward-facing person that the homeowner interacts with, that we build them up, that they can trust the company even more. So, we always talk about, like, know, like, and trust, right? We're always building trust throughout the process, whether it's being totally transparent, like, hey, listen, like, I'm sorry, but, it's going to rain today. We got to push it to tomorrow. Like, having the hard conversation actually builds trust. And most people want to avoid hard conversation. So to your point, people also want to try to hire a blind spot instead of understanding what the blind spot really is. So what I mean by that is like, oh, well, if I just had a guy that could just answer the phones, to your point, and kind of shield off to me not having to do it, it's not fixing the real issue. That person's still going to come to you to try to make a decision. So it's like, how do I think about the customer interaction first, put it in front of the customer, and then work my way backwards, and how does this make me money as well? Right? Because if I think about the customer first, I'm going to think about all the things of what we can do. Sure. So how does that benefit the customer? Well, one, we're a lot more tight on our actual budgeting and when we're put in our true, estimates and costs, right? Because I know that if we come up with 19.6 squares, we're going to sell 19.6 squares. I'm now not overpricing stuff as well, and I'm not underpricing stuff. So now I'm doing a better job with the customer because I have these control mechanisms in place to make sure that we're charging whatever that fair price is, whatever your gross margin is, right? And everybody's gross margins are going to be different, but like whatever it is, I can now set gross margin on top of it and have a true price. So I'm thinking of the customer first. So that's what I would say is like, we get out of focus and we start thinking about our money and our stuff and not how does this help the customer first. Once we help them, then we start, okay, how am I going to make some money? Right? Because again, I don't want to chase revenue. I'm an entrepreneur to fix problems. Like find the problem and fix it. Like hopefully that we can fix it. And so find those friction points and turn them into power plays. That's been one of my little monikers too. Like I like friction points and you turn them into power plays, right?
I think the one question that comes to my mind there that people are that you could create some controversy around this is,
let's do it.
How does increasing your price help the customer, Jon Broce?
I love that, man. That's a great question. Well, one, the private equity is in a lot of people's backyards now, charging $1,000 plus a square. So let's go back to perceived value. Okay. So I train on this every day, but what is value? What is the price really based on? Perceived value is what the customer feels that they're getting. So is private equity actually better at what they're doing, or are they better understanding the psychology of what they're doing? Okay, so they're understanding the psychology way better. They're understanding the emotional curve. We understood that prior to getting acquired, right? So, I'm not going to be a sellout right now, right? Like we sold our company, but they bought our playbooks and they understood what it was. And now we have the inside knowledge of what they really were looking for. They understand the emotional curve of the consumer. So why should I raise my price?
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Well, first, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. Fuel is one of the top 3 overhead costs for a roofing business. You need our sponsor, Coast, the fuel card built for the modern contractor. Here's why roofing companies are switching. 1, total flexibility. It's a Visa. Your crew fuels at the closest station to your job, saving you hours of billable time every week. Bulletproof security. With Coast's telematic integrations, the gallons purchased are checked against the actual tank capacity, so you'll be instantly alerted if a fill-up exceeds what the tank capacity is left. No portal charges, just a clean $4 per user monthly flat rate. Click the link in the description to get started with Coast. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank, subject to credit approval. Results may vary.
Why should I raise my price? Well, because I want to be here in 3 years. I mean, that's the easiest, off the cuff answer. But really, it's, it depends on what it is that you're looking to accomplish, right? Because the race to the bottom is easiest to win. The only way to raise my price, though, is going to be able to have perceived value that is better than others, right? And so when I keep talking about perceived value, I feel that there's no such thing as value. You could be the best roofer in Minnesota, Jim, but nobody knows about you because the perceived value is not there. You could install the absolute best roof. What does that really mean? Right? Because sales becomes emotional. If it's logical, they might choose Jim, but Jim didn't spend enough money to even get in front of that person. Right? So if we want to go and do the Walmart roofing type of sales, that's fine, right? To be the low budget guy, do volume, that's cool. Like you can build on that model, but you need capital to be able to back you up to be able to do it. So the question would be to the roofer saying, why should I raise my price? My question back is going to be, it's going to be focused on, well, what are your actual goals, right? Are we building this to scale it, to have a company to give to my kids? Is this building it to scale it to, to hang on to it for cash flow? What's the reason? And it doesn't matter what the reason is. The answer's still the same. Raise your price, right? Because you need profit, right? I'd much rather do I'd much rather do 5 million at 20% than 10 million at 10. Because at 10 million at 10, I'm one bad decision away from going out of business. 5 million at 20%, like I got some room to make a mistake, right? There's a little bit of breathing room, right? Because my OpEx is lower, my turnover rate's going to be lower, my production rate's going to be lower, but I'm making the same amount of profit at 5 million as what I do at 10. And that's that stretch where most guys go out of business as they start chasing that revenue stream. And that, I'm telling you, that growth from 7 to 15 is hard. It's hard. Once we got to 17, 20, 25, like you get a little bit of a breathing room again of like 15 to 17, but 7 to 15 is hard and it's a grind. And if you're not ready for it and you don't have a bunch of capital put back, because you're getting ready to make a bunch of mistakes. New level, it's a new devil, right? Like that's what happens. And you wind up making less money at 12 than what we did at 5 because you need the infrastructure and people don't see it that way. I'm like, guys, just focus on profit. Like don't focus on the revenue side, focus on profit, have a nice cash flowing business, that you can step back from. So raise your price so you can have a cash flow business that you can step back from and actually take a vacation. If not, I just own a job, right? I own my own job and it's just over broke. That's all job means. I'm just over broke. Right. And that's what we're doing as roofers. And I love the guys out there. Right? I mean, this is more of a battle cry and a plea to like understand that the race to the bottom is not where that you're going to win at. That's where you're definitely going to lose at. And the people that are coming into the space that are spending all the money on digital marketing, they're going to charge $1,000 plus a square, market specific, but like they're going to charge what they know that it's worth because they understand perceived value.
And I've said this many times too, but it's the company that can pay the most for a customer will win in that race, right?
In that race.
And so in that race, right? And it's if someone can pay more than you for a customer, then that's the game they're playing. And so you sit back and you look at your numbers and you're like, how the heck are they? How can they do that? Well, it's because they're including their marketing budget in their in the price that they're selling at.
Yeah,
they're including the team. They're including everything that's needed to run a business at that scale. Let's talk back earlier in the conversation. You said that one of the things you learned in private equity was more like a lot around the numbers and the quantitative aspect of it. What can, since you've been through the process, what can just a roofing business owner learn from the private equity companies?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. The main thing to learn is you got to know your numbers because they do. Like that's the first thing. You have to get in there, do the hard things. Most roofers, entry points that I found is, 40% of them are great sales reps that think that they can do it better and they might be doing it better. The other 40% are good craftsmen that just happen to start building a company but know nothing about business. Then you got this little section of 20% of the people that become businessmen that understand the numbers. Those guys is who's going to win on this next wave of roof. And that's where private equity is at. They understand the numbers. Now, I'm not saying that they understand how the numbers compare to the people, right? And how you get there. It's little things like I've seen them tear apart like total like repair departments, right? That had 30 reps in there or 30 techs in there, right? It's weird to me because it's like, well, that's the retention tool, right? Because like when you don't have hurricanes, you know what I mean? Like, in specific markets, you don't have big hailstorms or whatever it is, that was their marketing retention tool. But they look at it as a burden of overhead instead of figuring out how to make this a marketing machine. And so that's what says like when it comes to understanding it, the one thing is this is that we can't outspend them. So we have to outwork them and we have to outsmart them, right? Because they won't do the hard work. Like I'll be real, like most of them are not going to do the actual hard work. And most, roofing company owners, the owner operators, they didn't go get an MBA, right? And it's I didn't either. Like, I graduated the 5th grade, right? Like I'm not talking bad about it. I would say like we did go get that. Like all my stuff is from the school of hard knocks, right? I always say that I got my PhD, right? I was poor, hungry, and determined. That's what got me to where I'm at. I just wanted to figure it out. So all the stuff that I learned, like again, like I graduated high school, like and the 5th grade, but I didn't go to college. I don't have an MBA. But I think the way that you got to think about this is like you got to get in there and still learn. And today's times, man, the last 10 years, like information age, you can learn anything you want to in a weekend if you really put your mind to it. So, some of the advice that I give a lot of business owners and roofing company owners is like, they don't like the numbers. They don't like QuickBooks. I said, that's great. So go learn it. That's the first thing that you got to learn and master. Go master it and understand what it really means. So you can pass that off first, but you need to understand what it is that you're checking on. Because that's your lifeblood, man, is understanding numbers. And so they understand the numbers and they're going to beat you with the numbers, right? Because they understand how to spend in a certain spot. They understand how to negotiate certain types of contracts where I don't get leads as an owner operator where they're going to get those leads. They understand that stuff. And they've got enough weight to throw around that they can go purchase those types of things. That's why we see like digital marketing is down, 30 to 40% in roofing terms. It's down. And then like one other thing I looked at too, Jim, I thought was an amazing stat, which I'm sure that you could fill in too. It's like the click-through past that is down 65%. So it used to be 24%, like they would search and then the 75 would go to somebody's page. Now it's less than that. So it's like 35% go to someone else's page. So the guys that don't have the capital to spend on that, that's why it's got to go back to some of the grassroots advertising, the referral networks, the neighborhood marketing, the guerrilla warfare that we used to do. Like, I think that it's going to be this one side versus the other, but that's the hard work side. The guys are like, it's been so easy the last 5 years, right? That they're like, well, why can't I just get leads now? Right? It goes back to the whole, well, why don't I just get more leads? So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the way that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and it really comes down to that knowing your numbers, right? And I have a strong opinion on the way that the new, like, the lack of clicks on Google is going. I, I'm calling bullshit on it, John. Like,
Okay. It's okay.
I'm calling bullshit on it in a way, and I have a session coming up on the RSA with this.
I love it.
With this specific topic, man. I think there's a little bit of fear mongering around that, it's because of the way that people search. Right? It's informational search, that top of funnel stuff. You have your middle of funnel stuff. What's the typical cost of things like that? And then you have roofing company near me.
Yeah.
Roofers, city, state, best local roofing contractor, right? Like, those bottom of funnel, high commercial intent terms, type them into Google. There's very few AI answers there.
Correct.
Now,
I agree with that.
people aren't going down to the websites as often. LSAs are much more popular for people to call through. And it's human psychology. You get the reviews, right? Like it's a reviewed, guaranteed, Google
Right.
guaranteed kind of offer, right? Like, so there's a psychological aspect to it. Of course, they jam their Google ads in everywhere that they can and make them not look like Google ads. And then you
Yeah.
have the map section and people, that is still, to me, like the Google business profiles is like, those are non-click searches.
Correct.
It's a high percentage. I don't know the number offhand, so I don't want to make one up. But a high percentage of people will make phone calls to those 3 people in the map pack. That is part of the non-click search.
Correct. So,
but it is a
and I
phone
agree
call
with you
to
on
your business. You know what I mean? Like
that's the
right.
layer I'm getting to, right? So that's one of the
Yes,
caveats of it too, right?
that's
So there's
right.
multiple layers to this thing.
That's
So
right.
yes,
It's fantastic,
the
man.
no-
Like, but knowing your numbers and knowing where your business is coming from, this is one of those things. A lot of contractors out there don't know if the call came from their Google business profile,
I have zero clue.
or if it came from LSA, or if it came from
Yeah.
their website, or if it came from where they don't even know where the calls are coming from, so they
I
can't
think at
even
one
attribute
time,
it back properly.
well, I think at
Yeah.
one time we had like 350 different phone numbers, and then I get over in the weeds with
Oh,
some
yeah.
of these guys like, well, I only need one
That's pretty
phone number that way
crazy.
that they can remember it. I'm like, it's not 1991. Nobody writes down a phone number, right? Like, sure, I had those vanity numbers too that people could
Yes.
remember that I might put on a billboard or a yard sign. But it's not
Yeah.
1991, dude. Like, they don't need to remember the 423 roofs. Like, okay, that's cool. That's
That's right.
awesome. But like I got stuck in that too. And it's you and Brian kind of pulled me out of that. Like, you got to be able to track this stuff. Because
You got to be able to
when I
track
look
it.
online, I'm just going to click the link and hit call. I don't write the phone number down. Why does the phone number matter at this point? As long as it looks
Yeah.
like it's a local number, okay, it's a 304 number, it's a 412 number. Cool, let's call it. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, I think that's the lead attribution that people get stuck in the weeds. Like, oh, I need one phone number that way that they can remember it. I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. Like I'll call.
You know
some
how
BS
bad
on
it
that
is.
thing.
You know how bad it is, John, that people don't write down phone numbers. I have listened to numerous calls through Google Ads from employees of the company
Mhm.
because they Googled the business name to call in. They
Yeah.
don't even have it saved in their phone, and they just cost the company,
Yeah, and they're already a
$80 for
customer.
them to call.
Yeah.
And no,
Yeah,
I'm not even
they're-
talking about a customer, an employee of the company,
Ah,
an
an employee.
employee,
Oh, gotcha.
a sales rep. I've heard so many of these calls that, like, sales reps
That's
don't even
funny.
know the office phone, right? Like,
That's
it's crazy,
funny.
man. It's happened.
But I think
So,
that's one of
but
the that's one
yeah,
of the underlying things is like they don't know how to attribute campaigns, and they
yeah,
get stuck in the I just need one phone number thing. So I think that also hurts.
yes. And so knowing where things are coming from, knowing your numbers, and so that's the thing. Like, we teach, be the GC of your own marketing and the RSA. If from the other side of it, I think you made a very good point of like being the GC of your finance.
100%.
Right.
You have to. Yeah.
You can't hire a crew, a new sub crew, if you don't know if they're going to do a good job, like what they're doing. If you can't go out and inspect and say, "Oh, you guys, man, they didn't even what happened here? Like, what did you guys do?"
Yeah.
You have that in you. You have the knowledge of roofing in you to go and make sure that the subs are doing the right thing and doing proper installations. That's all. That's what we're talking about here. Know your numbers enough. Know finance enough to that when you hand it over to a fractional CFO or to a CPA or to whoever you're working with in that you have enough knowledge to know if things are going in the right direction or not. And that's challenging,
Great.
but that's how do you guys, when you have someone coming through the program, do you have something that you use? Do you train them up in that way? What are your thoughts on the numbers that a contractor needs to know, maybe on the P&L side, or, from the finance side?
No, that's a great question too. The first thing is we did all this in spreadsheets prior. Then we have this thing now called it's the boardroom OS, right? It's operating. This is the central nerve system of the business. So there's things that guys never thought about that that we were doing prior to private equity, but it just confirmed that it was the right way to track things. So one thing that I would say is go learn GAAP accounting. I know it's a crazy thing, but just GAAP accounting. You got to learn and understand what it's like to be on accrual basis, because I think that's really a healthier way to look at a roofing company. It's hard to do in your first $1 million. I get it. It's cash in, cash out, but you don't really understand the financial health, right? Because if I have a really good May, but then I got to pay all my suppliers in June. So I brought all the money in May, and then I paid all the suppliers in June. Your P&L does this. Where if I have an accrual basis, it'll follow based on these jobs were done in May. So I'm going to show this up, and then it kind of glides the P&L sheet. So that's the first thing to think about is GAAP accounting. We track all the way down to revenue installed per day, right? Because we were tracking installed revenue, and if you've got jobs that take multiple days or multiple weeks or months, understanding what WIP means, which is work in progress, so that you can attribute that revenue as you get it. So if you got a stage funded job, go ahead and recognize that revenue at the right time. It helps you understand your health. It's oh, I've got a $500,000 job that's sitting over there. Once that's done, I'll be good. It's well, will you though? That's the thing, understanding what work in progress really means and understand where that stage funding is. So if you're getting 30%, or it's 10% down and 30% of stage, recognizing that revenue at a certain point helps understand where that P&L is going. So cash basis is probably the easiest to understand. And I'm not an accountant, so I want to put that out there. Disclaimer, I'm not an accountant. I just understand it from a roofing, a poor kid from West Virginia that grew up on a farm, understanding of GAAP accounting. I just knew that it was really good to understand installed revenue. Now, okay, what is my goals every day to install? Because now I can track daily KPIs, right? So we'll install $20,000 to, and my goal is $30,000. Well, what happened today? Well, it rained on one side of town. Awesome, cool. Tomorrow we need to do 25,000 or 35,000, right? You gotta keep raising up. So by the end of the week, I was supposed to do 100,000, of installed revenue, but I only installed 82,000. Well, guess what? I'm gonna be short on payroll next week, right? So understanding why that we're tracking installed revenue, I think it's one of the biggest blind spots in companies is they don't understand how to track revenue. Plus, they don't know how to finance the jobs too. That's its own conversation. But listen, if you've got 90 days of AR and you're going out there and getting a line of credit, this is one of the biggest things that ever I hear. It's why would I give the bank 5% dealer fee to give me money? All my people are cash and they're waiting on the insurance check for 90 days, but they go to their own bank to pull out a line of credit at 9.25%, right? To float their payroll. What are you doing? Spend the 5% now, get your cash now, right? And it's going to cost you less money. Plus the cash flow is faster. So our AR went from 90 days plus down to 7 days. So understand what does that really mean inside of your business to make it healthy? So once we installed it, we collected within 7 days, right? But one of our standards was we collect when the job is completed. And there's certain times when you got bigger jobs. That's what drove it out to the 7 days. I wanted it to be a 3-day, but I was well, you get these bigger, larger projects, or there is an insurance check that you have to wait on. So 7 days was our standard at that point. No AR past 7 days because we collect the day of the bill. And so financing helped with that. And so when guys get out of that concept of it costs me money instead of it makes me a bunch more money, because dude, when they're sitting there waiting on the mortgage check and the insurance check, we got the money in the bank to go buy that truck that I really needed to do. I was going to invest in anyway. I was able to go hire that other person, get one step ahead, and me get one step back as an owner, right? But I had the profit to go with it. So that would be one of the main things is knowing numbers, is understand that not everything that appears to be a cost is just a cost. A lot of times it's actually going to make you more money, like having a supervisor on site, having financing, right? Those types of things actually make you more money and close more deals.
Yeah, definitely. And it comes back to the pricing of the jobs then also, right? Like you have to be pricing your jobs properly to account for all of these things.
Yeah.
That's,
And it's
you
simple
know,
too.
so yeah.
So financial wise, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jim. I'm sorry.
No, go
It's a
for
simple
it.
formula. It's a simple way to do it. So most guys are saying, well, it costs me 7%. So then they put the 7% on every job. I'm like, well, your sales reps are never going to sell that because they think they're 7% too high. So now their close rates are 20% instead of 58.7, right? Because that's where we were at, was 58.7% close rate as a team. But the reason is we understood that they had no idea what the finance cost was, one. But when you're at the kitchen table and you can offer some type of financing solution now, so the simple part is this: it's just like having a box of nails. It's a required product on every job. So if for easy math, if my dealer fee is 5%, but I'm only financing 20% of the time, what is my actual percentage that I need to put into every job? It's not 5%. It's 20% of 5%. So it's 2%. It's less than 2%. Right. So now what's my average ticket? Let's say it's 20 grand. So my average ticket is 20 grand times 2%. What's $400? So I'm going to put a line item in my cost of goods financing fee for $400 and put margin on top of that. Keep it super simple. No cash discounts. The price is the price. Right. So when somebody pays you cash, I win the extra $400. When it costs me 7%, but okay, there's a buy deeper. Well, I lost a little bit of money on one of the jobs. Right, but you got to play the long game, at least 100 jobs type of a long game, and understand what that means. So financing actually becomes one of your costs, right? And most people get that wrong. They put it down as an overhead. So if you put it up above the line, put a dollar amount to it, put it in every job, now it's a box of nails. And I put margin on top of it. But I got to understand what's my percentage of financing? What is my average ticket? So you got to go all the way back to lead to set, close, knowing what is my average ticket.
We talked. I don't know. I can't remember if it was off camera or on camera now, but we had talked about how far to go back. Like you said, we're not just like looking at where they are today. You're looking at a ways back so that you can understand and predict the future a little bit better. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So what we do now is we go back as far as we can, but typically a minimum of 5 years. If they've been in business 3 years, let's come back 3, right?
Yep.
But we'd like to at least go back 5 years. And what we do now inside of our softwares, we put in what was their revenue, not their sales, but their actual revenue, because it's easy to pull that out of QuickBooks, right? Even if they were on cash basis and they got a $200,000 month and then a $20,000 month, that's fine. Because if you take it over a 5, 7, 10-year period, I'll be able to see the percentage of business every month. So now I've got a wavelength. So like, instead of freaking out in January when, man, like I want to do $1.2 million this year, I use that because it's easy math. So I need to do $100,000 a year. Or I'm sorry, $100,000.
Yeah.
So now I'm in January and I did $20,000. Oh man, I'm going to go out of business. February, I do $30,000. Oh man, I'm way behind. So when you understand the curve of what your specific market is, and it's based on the historical. So we go back in time on their historical and then help them with that wavelength. Because January might just be, it's 2% of the whole business, right? So it might actually be $24,000 was the goal in January, right? And then the February goal might have been 30,000 and we hit 35. So we're actually ahead of goal. And so that's when we look at like running our 3-tier program, the break-even curve, right? What do I got to do this year to break even and make no money? We recommend when you do that you put your salary into the OpEx, right? So pay yourself a salary, whether it's a distribution or however you want to do it, but at least allocate that money into OpEx and then put that in there. So what's my break-even point, right? So we run this whole metric of break-even. What is our actual goal this year? Because goal setting is crazy to me. Guys have come to us like, yeah, man, I did 5 million this year. I want to do 10 million next year. And so let's slow down. Like, where'd you come up with 10 million at? Why is that the number? Again, that's the vanity metric. So we start to look at, well, you're at 5 million, but you were doing it 7%. Why don't we just get you from 5 million and stay there and get to 20%? Like you accomplish the same thing. Right. And so like helping them understand that too. So like, that's what I would say is the wavelength and how to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. How does the implementation actually happen? Like now we're, you spoke a lot about, hey, we have these levers, we want to be looking at these certain things. How does the implementation happen?
Yeah. So first, let's look at like where the lack of implementation has been, right? Because the thing that we found the best is that in a group setting, people actually do more work. So we were holding boardroom meetings once a month with our private clients, and they were one-on-one, and they only saw each other at the board meeting, but they all came with their numbers. They did the work because they don't want to get called out, right? Because it's there to be a call out, right? In a good, friendly way, right? So we call it out, we talk about it, we go over for 5 minutes. That's where it started at. Like, okay, I'm getting them to actually put numbers in now because they have some accountability to their peers. So then we said, well, because it used to be all spreadsheets. Let's build it actually in software. So now that we got it in the software, so you come into the group, we're actually going to help you in like three different areas. The first one is actually going to be like referral based and door-to-door knocking. So we built our own app with that as well. We have a theology that when you were with us as well, it was like the dome effect. So it's we own our 1 mile every day, right? So we dominate our mile every day. That's what dome meant, right? So we wanted to dominate that. So we help you with an HOA friendly. It's actually perfect behind the gate code to get in there to not be in handcuffs, right? Because we know a way to actually knock on doors that nobody's ever really thought of. So all that is inside the group as well, and we have an app to actually help you track that, so that you're accountable for it. So we run through that. At the same time, we're teaching them to pull their numbers out. So we can start with the baseline that we started with, which is the 5x5. How do we focus on these 5 things at a 5% shift? So we help them pull their numbers out, right? And actually that takes a while. Like that takes a good 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to learn how to build the reports, to go in there to find the right numbers, to start getting them to at least punch them in manually until we figure out like how to integrate them in, but like at least to know where to pull them from. So we train them on like how to start knowing numbers, right? And then you get into like, how do I improve on my sales? How do I close better? How do I go from lead to appointment better? So, it's like the neighborhood marketing, knowing numbers and the boardroom style. And then we get into, improving the sales process. The sales process is really from answering the call all the way to the kitchen table.
That's awesome, man. It's been awesome. It's always good seeing you. Thanks for coming into the office today, Jon. Thanks for stopping by the studio.
Got me a new samurai sword, man. I need to get these samurai swords.
That's right. Hey, they better be there when I get back.
I don't think I can put them through TSA. So you're probably pretty
you
secure.
You might have a problem with TSA with those ones. All right, man. Brother. It's been great having you again, Jon Broce. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.